What's up, gang? It's SavageIntellect and we back again with another video. And today we'll be discussing the story of Under Armour, one of the world's leading sportswear brands, and how they turned $500 into $5 billion through excellent marketing. So let's talk about the beginnings. In 1996, Kevin Plank, a former Maryland football player, created this company in his grandmother's basement. At the time, he was 24 years old. So Plank was a special teams captain in Maryland in the early 1900s. And like all great business owners, he had a problem and he found out a way to solve it. While practicing, he would always have to change out his t-shirts 2 or 3 times during practice because of how heavy and soaked the cotton got. Plank figured there had to be a better way, and that's what business is all about. Just finding a problem and then going in with a solution. So after he finished playing in 1995, he set out with the goal to create a lighter, tighter, and drier shirt to wear under football pads, and something that could feel like a bicycle style shorts, you know, the biker shorts that you wear under your pants. He was able to start his business with a little bit of money. He already had a hustler's mentality because in high school with just $500, he started a t-shirt business where he would sell t-shirts at concerts in the city. But once he got into college, he also sold roses. And by the time he got done in college, he had enough money to start his business. So funding is an important aspect of business. You know, it's hard to start something if you don't have the funds or the tools or the resources to get something done. So for Kevin, he went in with $40,000 of credit and $20,000 in cash from his 2 previous businesses. So let's talk about the idea. He went all in with the synthetic fabrics that was used for biker shorts. While making his first few samples in his grandmother's basement, he was excited to start showing everybody what he had came up with. He gave some of the samples to his old teammates. He even drove to college campuses and intended to sell them to other football teams. And honestly, I think that was the right approach because sometimes I think us as entrepreneurs think too small about who our client is, but instead of just reaching out to individual players, he thought to reach out to an entire team. So let's get back to the story. It's obvious that Kevin's business life is heavily influenced by his sports career at Maryland. He got a lot of his concepts and ideas from when he was on the team. So with that experience, when he approached the teams to purchase Under Armour, he targeted college equipment managers instead of the athletic directors and university presidents. That's just genius because he already knew that the equipment managers were the ones to make the order. They were the ones to make that decision. And sometimes athletic directors or even presidents or even coaches, that's not something that they're thinking about. So if you go directly to the source with the equipment managers, it's just a no-brainer. So he went back to his school with the connections that he already made in Maryland. So he asked the equipment manager if he had the authority to buy the shirts, and he discovered that they did, right? But he also did some market research, and he found out that Division I equipment managers have the budget of $300,000 to buy everything from helmets to socks. Like I mentioned before, Kevin focused on selling to teams instead of individual athletes because he already had the connections with his former teammates and coaches. Plus, it's more lucrative to sell to teams because they need to outfit all their players for the entire year. So this strategy amplified with the effect of word of mouth. In 1996, the equipment manager of Georgia Tech bought 10 Under Armour shirts. A few months later, he had Arizona State, NC State, and other football teams that followed suit. In 1997, 12 college teams and 10 NFL teams purchased Under Armour shirts. Man, it sounds like he's doing a good job at this point. And the key element in Kevin's success was his mindset. And he said that he has a yes mindset. That when one customer asked if he makes long sleeve shirts, he answered, of course, he makes long sleeves, even though he had never done it and he was just going to figure out how to do it. But take that with a grain of salt because it may not be applicable to you and your business. But when another person asked him if he made anything for cold weather, he replied, yes, of course. I always say that networking is so important, and you never know where, the people who you grew up with and where they will end up. And I say this to my little brother all the time, really make those genuine connections while you're in high school, because you never know if somebody will have a resource for you, or if you can continue to build onto that relationship in the future that you can be able to rely on or pull on them in situations of need. And with that being said, with Kevin's networking, he had 13 teammates from Fork Union, including Eddie George, who was playing in the NFL at the time. Even though he had 13 old teammates that played in the NFL currently, he never asked his old teammates for money to invest in a business. He just asked them one thing, And guess what that was? Just to wear Under Armour shirts. But he only had one condition. He asked his teammates, if you really like this shirt, can you tell the guys in the locker rooms next to you to support as well? And this is what we call grassroots networking. And it worked, especially when the word of mouth is moving between professional athletes. It's gonna just spread like wildfire, actually. All right, so this type of marketing is called viral marketing, especially when you have someone famous or with a lot of influence promoting your work or your product. And I got one good example of that. This weekend, a video was going around about Meek Mill at this shoe convention. So he is asking for a discount to a reseller, right? But he's saying, like, if I make a good promo, do you think you can give me a discount on the shoes? We not really gonna get into all that because I don't even think that he should have been asking for a discount at all. But that's what he was hitting at, trying to get some viral marketing going on and promoting this guy's brand. But let's get back to the story with Kevin and see how Under Armour is doing now. All right, so by 1999, through networking and word of mouth, Under Armour has sold over 25,000 garments to MLB, the NFL, and NHL teams. And he also started to sell at retailers. But that wasn't all. They also had other marketing moves by doing product placement deals in 2 movies to build the awareness. So network marketing, viral marketing, product placements, and even just the word of mouth and getting those 25,000 garments sold is not enough. They still needed to link their logo to a brand in people's minds. And what do I mean by that? Is that when you think of Nike, you think of Just Do It. When you think of Apple, you think of tech. When you think of Samsung, you think about appliances and devices. But at this time in 1999, they didn't really have enough money to do some magazine ads. In business, you're gonna have some moments and some times where you take a risk. And for him, he asked his company and his team to take a risk by skipping a paycheck for a few weeks in order to afford a half-page ad in ESPN. Just like Babyface Ray said, you ain't gonna make no money if you don't take no risk. And I feel like we all have this point in our business, and continuously, you don't just take a risk one time, you take multiple risks in order to see that end goal, but calculated risk and measured risk. So they end up skipping the paychecks for a few weeks. And I think that's amazing too, if I just sit there for a second, to be able to have a team that trusts you and believe in you and believe in your brand and what you're doing, to be able to not be paid for a few weeks, you know, that's just a blessing and a testimony in itself to the type of community and team building that he was doing with Under Armour. So let's talk about the results of the ESPN. The ad generated over $750,000 in sales over the next 2 weeks. How you make more than $500,000 in 2 weeks? And then that just spiraled and kept them going. So in 2000, the revenue reached $5 million. And that's all in 1 year off of an ad in the ESPN magazine. Genius. With $5 million, they got a little bit of money to play with now. So after this big boom, they got into visual marketing. Now they wanted to do a lot more commercials and collaborations. And one of their first marketing campaigns were the Protect This House campaign. And I know you've seen a bunch of them. Protect this house. We will protect this house was Under Armour's slogan and theme song. It went so viral that Plank witnessed second graders chanting the song while outside playing kickball. What was so key about their visual marketing is that they centered the marketing around the celebrity endorsements. And it worked, and it's still true today. Many of the greats promote Under Armour and its brand. And that's true with some stars like Steph Curry, Tom Brady, and so many more. One of Kevin's old teammates was Eric Ogumbu. He was a Dallas defensive, and he was also known as the Under Armour guy. And he was starred in many of the Under Armour's commercials back in the beginning. Another example of one of their marketing tactics was to have a sales pitch at retailers from Letterman screaming that he will indeed protect this house on late night. And even Oprah has recited the advertising slogan, but a bit more calmly in the afternoon show. These commercials even starred Michael Phelps, Brandon Jennings, Olympic athletes, and even soccer superstar Heather Mitts. They really had a theme for catchy sounds, especially when it comes to their click-clack marketing campaign for their footwear for baseball and football, and even boom boom tap for women's outdoor sports. In the beginning, they relied heavily on slogans and catchy sounds that were regularly heard when playing sports. But the great thing about it is that Kevin didn't just stay with football. He tried to represent every sport, and I think that's what really made him successful. Not just that, but he even had retail partnerships with Dick's Sporting Goods and Sports Authority. They even had some commercials that were called like All Night Long or something like that, where the three athletes worked in Dick's Sporting Goods until the morning, but then they turned to mannequins when the sun rose. And obviously, when we think about it, we may think that Nike or Reebok or these other brands are just doing tremendously better because of how much they market. But the truth is that for Under Armour's compression wear, they have 70% of the market share. At this point, they're like a silent killer, and nobody's messing with them for real. Today, Under Armour does over $5 billion in sales each year. But if it wasn't for Kevin's hustler mentality, his networking and relationship building and grind early on, he definitely wouldn't have come this far. And not to mention the great marketing. I hope y'all enjoyed this story of Under Armour and their success through marketing. If you guys are into entrepreneurship, business, and marketing, please feel free to like this video and subscribe, because we'll be having more deep dives into marketing coming up here soon. Peace.